Hello everyone, this is Chingir, and today I want to talk about transurfing of reality. Like there was an article that I wrote quite some many years ago, and surprisingly got some traction. But transurfing of reality is a book, and that is written by um, Russian esoteric writer called Vadim Zeland. And yeah, you will find the name like Transurfing of Reality or Reality Transurfing. Both are correct. And yeah, like I think it's an interesting model that I wanted to share with you, especially if you were curious and you asked yourself a question: how do I manifest my own reality? What can I do in order to manifest my thoughts and in order to materialize the reality that I see in my mind? So today we're going to talk about 12 different concepts of transurfing. I think it's a very interesting model, and obviously there are many things that I used from there in my personal life because they have direct practical application. So let's talk about before we started, right? I want to talk a little bit about esotericism versus physics, right? Like esoteric teachings, they can be very, very useful in life, but they're also dangerous, right? If that's the only thing that you use, and that can sway you away from true spiritual growth, right? And you can go too deep into esotericism. But we are playing around with the notion that thoughts are material, right? And thoughts are material. This easiest way to explain it, and that's a silly example, right? But if I ask you like, hey, move your hands, right? Hand is a matter, or like let's put a pencil on the table and I say move the pencil with your thoughts. How do you do that, right? Well, you think about it, you take your hands, you take the pencil and you move it. That's a silly example, you think, but that's how it works, and we don't understand how exactly our thoughts make the matter move, make our hands move, and make other objects move in the world, in the universe, right? This is one way to prove it, right? Like some of the bigger projects that you want to realize in your life, everything happens in the same way, right? You do it step by step, and it just takes longer time. So when we talk about how to manifest reality, you obviously hear often about two things: law of attraction and law of action, right? And law of attraction states that thoughts do materialize reality, right? But I'm afraid that's not the way like many people interpret it, right? It doesn't matter how hard and how long you think about something. If there is no action, and this is what brings us to law of action, then nothing's gonna happen. So, for example, what I think that law, and what is law of action here, right? Law of action is we must take action to see changes happen. Unless you get up, unless you start doing something, change will not happen just from sitting and thinking very hard about it. But why thinking very hard about it works. And that's the real true meaning of law of attraction. Your thoughts come first. Your thoughts bring about an emotional state. You feel in a certain way, right? You feel in a certain way, you start behaving in a certain way. Your behavior becomes your habits. Your habits, after some time, become your meta programs. And that's an NLP term, but it basically means underlying very deep beliefs that are already on unconscious level, right? And then your meta programs become your destiny. This what becomes you eventually over the time, right? I think it's a pretty straightforward chain. I'm not gonna go into examples here. You understand like how your thought evoke an emotion and becomes a behavior and habit, and then a deeper program, and then it becomes you, right? So what is transurfing of reality? Again, transurfing of reality is a model of seeing and controlling the world, right? I'm gonna be emphasizing the word model here because it cannot be the only thing that you use in order to approach life as a whole. So let's start with the first concept of transurfing of reality, and I think the most critical idea here to understand how transurfing works, right? Nikola Tesla, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, right? Like think of the world and think of the universe. And that's not esotericism. That's physics, right? Everything, if you study physics in school, or like maybe at a deeper level in university, right? You understand everything is a vibration, right? You take matter, this hard table that's in front of you, right? You go deeper. There are molecules. You go deeper, there are atoms. You go deeper, and there's nothing, right? Really, there's nothing that you can touch. There is a nucleus, and there are electrons. But can you locate an electron? That's impossible, right? It's mostly like a ghost, like a wave, like a phantom, if you will, right? So that's physics again, right? So the proposition here that Zeland brings is the world is an information structure, right? It's a wave, it's a vibration. And again, it's physics, not metaphysics, right? With that brings us the concept of space of variations, right? Because everything is information structure, because everything is informational field, if you will, all versions of reality already exist there, right? I think this concept will be more and more populated with the pop culture, right? Like the multiverse of Spider-Man and Doctor Stephen Strange, whatever. All versions of reality do exist there, right? And we call them sectors of space of variations, right? So there's an infinity of different variations of materialization, right? And you can look this picture. The movie that I liked a lot, you probably remember this one, Source Code, with Jake Gyllenhaal. Did I pronounce it right? Right? Different variations of the same reality. That's the, like, watch this movie. That's the concept that kind of resonates very well with the concepts of transurfing, right? And with that being said, our mind travels along the lines. Our mind is sort of a transmitter, right? Like it's like a GPS. It helps us to navigate through the space of variations and materialize certain sectors of space of variation, certain variations of reality, right? And that is basically transurfing, and that's why he called it basically transurfing, right? You're trans, it means between. You're transitioning, and the process is very similar to surfing, right? You do not fight the wave, but you ride the wave, right? So the first rule of transurfing states that the irradiation of mental energy induces the materialization of the variation. Your mental energy is obviously also being a wave, informational wave, and within the informational space, right? And this is how you materialize certain variation. Again, coming back to like our example of thoughts and emotion and behavior, you radiate mental energy. Hey, I want to move the pen. You have the intention. Your hand moves. Something happens in the material world. You're moving the pen with your hands. All right. We can choose the variation by changing the parameters of our transmitter, our thoughts. Right. We change our thoughts, and it's like your mind is like a little antenna that you have, and that helps you navigating within this space of variations. So that's concept number one, right? Concept number two, pendulums. Very important to understand before we move forward. Pendulums, another name that they call are egregores, right? So when people group together and they start thinking in the same direction, they sort of create an invisible energy informational structure that affect us in the daily life, right? And they're called pendulums because they swing us, right? What are the examples of these pendulums? Okay, before we dive in, right? Like let's imagine, right? For example, the simplest example of a pendulum: you go to watch a football match, right? You're watching the game, and you know how people are doing this wave on the stadiums, right? Everyone's get up and raises their hands, and you're there. You are not you're not a football fan, and I don't know. You just got tickets from a friend that he didn't want to waste, right? And you're watching the game, but that's gonna affect you. Like this desire is just gonna take you up, and you're gonna like once the wave goes, you're gonna stand up, raise your hand, and yell and like, hey, and cheer for a team or whatever. That's how the energy of people brought in together and resonating at the same frequency kind of affects us psychologically, right, and behaviorally, if you will. And but imagine something else happens, right? Like someone shots the gun on the field, and everyone starts panicking, and everyone starts running from the stadium, right? This wave of panic just gonna take you. Like it's very hard to stay calm and remain your composure, because this wave of panic, energy of panic, is gonna take you and it's gonna consume you. So that's the simplest example of a pendulum. Now let's take a look at what types of pendulums are there. Religious, political, familial, national, corporate, cultural. Religious, church, right? You go to like on any kind of religious institution, right? You go there, you resonate at the frequency of its members, you believe the same things, and you behave in a similar way. Political, right? Leftist, rightist, you associate yourself with a certain party that also conditions you, right? Familial, family karma, right? That can be like something that runs in the family, any kind of relationship that you had with your parents, right? That's a pendulum. Family, and you know how it works, right? I don't know, in some families, for example, families come together on a holiday, and so there are some members of the family that provoke other members of the family, and like you wanted to have a good time, but it all ends up in the fight. A national, ancestral trauma, right? For example, I don't know, let's take at what kind of example we can take. We can take us as an example, right? I'm Korean, right? But I was born and raised in a Russian-speaking country. I'm from Kazakhstan, right? And I'm not sure if you can call it trauma, right? But people were taken and deported and relocated forcefully, right? From Korea, from the areas close to Korea, and spread out throughout the Soviet Union. And this is why it kind of gives us a new cultural phenomenon, like a Russian-speaking Korean. But ancestral trauma, what happened to Jews, for example, Holocaust, right? That's it's still until now people carry it generation after generation, right? They still remember this pain. Racism, right? What happened to black people in America? Same thing, ancestral trauma. It's a pendulum of some sort. It can suck you in, right? And it can condition you to behave in a certain way. Corporate, very, very common kind of pendulum. It's company culture. What kind of values you adopt? You adopt values. You stick to them. If you exercise your values, right? That's how you build strong cultures. People behave in a certain way, for example, we have a value. Our people make us great at K-Swear right now, and we're trying to adopt it, to truly believe that to keep us unite, right? Cultural, right? So for example, like fans, right? I don't know what kind of example I can give you, like K-pop stars, for example, in South Korea, all these crazy little girls, and not only girls. Teenagers, right? And not only in Korea, but all over the world. That's a huge pendulum, right? Sucks you in, conditions you, and you start getting, and like these teenagers get obsessed with this culture. So here are some examples. I think you kind of get an idea of what a pendulum is, right? Many people get together, they all vibrate in the same frequency. It creates an energy informational structure that we call an egregore, right? Or a pendulum. They didn't like what's important to understand about pendulums. They do not have consciousness, right? Like their sole purpose is to draw life or draw emotional energy on its followers. So number of followers equal amount of energy, right? The more people follow, the more people invest in emotional and intellectual energy, life energy, right? The bigger the pendulum becomes, the stronger it swings, and the bigger amount of energy it has. Yeah, again. Fascism, strong example, right? One evil man made a group vibrate. It consumed the country, and the country it spread out to another country, from Germany to Italy and Japan, right? And this pendulum, it was swinging hard, right? Like it was it impacted the whole world. So the second rule of transurfing to pendulums, like to understand, have awareness of those pendulums, and then understand like how do you position against them. And again, transurfing stance is not really against. You cannot find a pendulum, right? They're strong, they're fed by many people. So the first thing you need to do is awareness, right? In order to get rid of a pendulum, first admit that it exists, admit that the pendulum exists and has a right to do so, right? You can't really affect this if a certain event exists in the world of human, right? It has a right to do so. What you can do is to drop your internal importance, right? How your mental attitude towards this pendulum, right? Stay indifferent. You have to calm down. You have to lose interest towards it. You have to ignore it. And by doing so, you will deprive this pendulum of your mental energy, right? This comes a lot with calibrating your transmitter, calibrating your thoughts in a way to understand like what's your attitude and how do you treat it? What's your stance? What's your position towards the pendulum? Not all of pendulums are destructive. Some can be leveraged. Some can be very, very positive for you. Like for example, sport pendulums, right? You have a group of people. Like I had a little workout movement back home, right? And we had a team of people who went and exercised together, right? It was a mini pendulum. Did it work? Yes, because you come in and you see these people. They're charging you with their energy, right? They're all many of them are younger than you. They're driven. They're full of physical energy, right? And they push you to your limit. Some kind of clubs, masterminds or writing clubs, right? You find you want to develop a certain skill. You find a group of people who resonate with the same frequency and they want to develop this skill. And they make you better, right? They invest intellectual energy. You feed from their intellectual energy as well. Like this is not a parasite sort of pendulum, but it lets you feed from it too. Okay, so that's about pendulums. The wave of luck. So we talked about it, transurfing. We're surfing the space of variations. It's like a big ocean of energy, of information, right? And here's like a little surfer picture for you. But there is a phenomenon that's called wave of luck, right? And what does that mean? Like you imagine within this ocean of informational energy, there are certain lines, right? It's like Google Maps, and you have your transmitter, GPS, and you're navigating across roads. It tells you where to go, right? So there are lines, there are different roads, right? Streets and avenues that you can take. So when the collection of positive lines in the space of variations is called this wave of luck, right? When you go like positive line, now you turn, it's still positive line, it's just luck. You feel like you're riding a wave of luck. Lots of good stuff happens in your life, right? And that, I'm sure you had this kind of episodes, right? Like how do you navigate them, right? You need to understand that you can build up on your first success, right? If you have your first success, you can snowball it, right? You are on the right track, you're on the right line, right? And that brings us to the third rule of transurfing. First, like accept and transmit. So by accepting transmitting the negative energy, you create your individual hell. By accepting and transmitting the positive energy, you create your individual heaven, right? Like really, and that brings us to positive thinking, and we will talk about it later. But understanding how to navigate between those lines, right? That's basically what you're doing, right? If you transmit first of all, and if you accept external negativity from the world, it's a loop, right? You absorb more, you choose to absorb more negativity from the external world, you vibrate on that frequency, you transmit more negativity into the world, and that's a loop, right? But if you keep doing this, like you spiral down to like some kind of negative scenarios in your life, right? On the opposite side, you absorb more positive information, you hang out with positive people, right? You calibrate your transmitter to vibrate at the positive frequency, exude positive energy, right? And you exude positivity, and you move towards positivity in your life. So that's kind of very important implication here, right? It's not enough to close your heart from negativity. You should stop being the source of negativity. Like you need to understand that that's basically how reality is formed, right? If you are the antenna that transmits negative scenarios, that's what you're going to be manifesting. Positive thinking is not some new age propaganda, right? It's a calibration work, and positive thinking is a tool, right? It's not something I advocate saying, like, hey, be happy, be positive. Not at all. In order to be a mature individual, you have to master negative thinking. You need to master negative visualization, right? And you need to understand how negative thoughts come, how to organize them, how to tame them. I do not say control, but how to tame them, right? And how to probably even use them as a source. You need negative thinking, as I said, to be a mature, wholesome individual, right? But calibrating your antenna, calibrating your transmitter, that's very much a work that everyone here and we all have to do. So, next one, excessive potentials, right? This is a huge concept here in transurfing. You've probably played with this toy, right? You take this ball, you swing it, and it hits all the chain, and the potential energy that you give to the ball, it translates into kinetic energy, right? And goes to the chain, and this ball goes up, right? So that's an important, again, that's nothing metaphysical here, only physics, mechanics, right? Potential energy translates into counteraction, right? This ball goes up and it goes down back, and this potential energy, the impulse goes the opposite direction. This is a little system here, right? And what does the system wants to do, right? The system wants to go into the state of equilibrium. And that is a very important, again, physical concept that becomes, with transurfing, getting a metaphysical flavor, right? Excessive potentials are created when you give too much attention and value to a certain object or event. Again, we talk about the concept of internal importance. When you, right, associate certain, you give importance so much. Again, expectations, right? For example, you give too much importance to certain things, you create an excessive potential. Transurfing states that the equilibrium forces in the universe exist. That's this little system is a simplest example, right? But on a kind of more vibrational, metaphysical level, right? It's also the same. There are some certain equilibrium forces that will ground you, and that will try to bring your system to equilibrium. If you create excessive potential, right, they will try to remove the excessive potential. So what are the examples? I've made this little picture for you. That's with memes, so it's more explanatory. So what is the violation of equilibrium, for example, and the energy message to the universe? What are you telling universe? And the universe triggers the equilibrium forces, right? Sense of guilt. I feel bad about myself. You ask universe, punish me. Universe says, hey, equilibrium forces, go and punish this person. Sense of superiority. I'm better than others. It's an excessive potential, excessive importance, right? You're inflating your importance. Universe comes and you're asking universe, hey, come and slap me for my overinflated ego, right? Deflate my ego back. Inferiority complex on the opposite, like I'm not important enough. That's also a form of importance. You're saying, universe, prove to me that everything is so not important, right? That I'm not important, and you will get an evidence of that from the universe. Discontent, being unhappy, right? Give me more reasons to be unhappy. You will get that. Idealization. Again, K-pop idols, right? Same thing. Smack my face with the ground of reality. That can happen as well. Contempt, right? Universe, push me down back into my place. Excessive desire. I want it so bad. Universe, make sure I don't get it. Too much potential, right? Equilibrium says no. Perfectionism, right? I want to be everything perfect, right? Everything 100%, everything's polished. That's not how life flows. That's not how life works, right? And universe will bring you the evidence of that, right? And you're asking universe to make your life a struggle by making everything super perfect, and that's what you get. Okay, meditate on this. Maybe you will find examples from your life. So, concept of internal importance, right? Excessive potentials, again, and equilibrium forces. You create a potential, equilibrium force will equalize it, right? Equalizer with the movie. Sorry. Rule of transurfing, number 4. In order to get in balance with the outside world, have freedom from pendulums and freely fulfill your desires, one needs to reduce the importance, right? Why is that important? Because when you drop the importance, you're empty. And when you're empty, you're invincible. You cannot hook emptiness. You cannot punch the air, right? You cannot do anything with you cannot provoke when there's nothing to provoke. And that's, again, resonates with Buddhism, right? State of Buddha, right? You come with anger, and he says, I do not accept your anger, right? There's nothing to hook, nothing to grab. So again, this is resonates with other philosophies that I personally lean on. Zen Buddhism, Zen means meditation, right? Meditation, it means, again, being empty of thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts, right? When you understand that, you're empty and nothing can trigger you, really. Stoicism, right? Circle of control and circle of influence. One of the tools that we're using a lot. What can I control? What I cannot control? When you have clarity on that things, it gives you peace and calmness, and nothing that outside of your influence can really trigger you. Existentialism, one useful idea that you can take from here, that your experience is your own and no one's else, right? Right now you're sitting, and whatever you're experiencing, the reality, the way you experience it, your perception, your life, that's yours only. And no one will be able to truly understand you. It can be a sad existential truth, but once you come to peace, come to terms with that, right? It gives you power to calibrate your internal experience and your internal importance as you wish. Alrighty, let me follow this one. Next one, induce transition, right? Induce transition is like, how do we move? How do we navigate from line to line? So, quote by Rumi, right? Let go of your mind and be mindful. Close your ears and listen, right? How do you create these induced transitions? Your mind, so let's talk about transurfing. Your mind creates a separate layer of the world in which it lives. We talked about it, again, the existential idea, right? Your own reality, it's a separate layer of separate sector of the space of variation, separate variation of manifestation of the world, right? And you are the only one who is experiencing it. And your mind is basically the antenna that, irradiates energy and absorbs energy. An emotional response to external negativity induces a transition to a negative line, and it pulls you into the pendulum, right? If you respond emotionally to something, to external negativity, right, you invite negativity into your world. So I don't know what kind of idea I can bring you. Trump supporters, right? You watch politics, something makes you very, very angry. You respond with your anger. Congratulations, you're inside a pendulum, right? You're feeding with your emotional energy. You go and you put an angry tweet out there, and other people are triggered, right? That's how the energy and negativity propagates, right? What's gonna happen if you extinguish all of it, right? If you stop being the participant of this, right? Well, you will stop a chain of reactions after you, and many things can be stopped that way. What kind of external negativity? Any kind of crisis, unemployment, there are no jobs, pandemic, panic, disaster, right? You can choose to be an extinguisher here or to be an amplifier, right? And well, if you choose to be an amplifier, you're a slave of pendulum. At first, you're an observer, and then you can move into being an active participant. By doing that, again, this is how you induce transition that you will not be happy about later on down the road, right? That brings us to next rule of transurfing. Do not let any negative information into your layer of the world. Intentionally ignore it. deprive it of attention, and don't engage with interest. You do not actively avoid negativity. You don't fight it. You simply stay indifferent, empty, right? You stay empty, and you keep your inner observer, and this is how that means basically to stay aware of your thoughts, keep awareness, right? You do not engage in negativity, and you don't engage in negativity. You keep awareness. You keep a distance between your thoughts, and this is how you control the way you behave, right? The way the things you engage in. That brings us again. That resonates a lot with the concepts of NLP, right? We do not react to reality, only to our perception of reality. Like remember that, and one of the concepts of NLP that everyone should sort of internalize and exercise is a concept of perceptual filters. The information externally that comes through senses, right? Sight, hearing, touch, right? Sense of smell, sense of taste. All this input of information, it comes in, right? And it passes the filters. We have in our internal mind filters, if you will. We delete, distort, and generalize. We delete information, we distort information, and we generalize information. We put it into buckets and categorize it, right? And we'll talk about it in an NLP video that I will make later. But based on these deleted elements, distorted information, generalized information, you create your internal representation. That's the mind form that you have about certain thing, a certain concept, right? And that creates your state, that affects your physiology, your hormones, right? Your biochemistry of your body, and that translates into your behavior, and behavior translates into your results, right? Very much resonates, like transurfing and NLP can work hand in hand and work together, right? Okay, so this video can be very long, so I'm gonna stop here, and we will continue in the next part. Thank you.